I go to Videowest. Videowest is coming apart at the seams. It's like it had been, its best days were behind it. Story of my life. I get there, they're like, we spent all our money. ABC is taking us off the air. We're going to become, I don't know, a sports network or something. And then the whole thing goes away. And then everybody goes off and does music videos. And that's where it's fun. That's where I meet all the Video West people like Juanita, whose home we are in, and Joe. That's when we actually start to work together, making videos and going to Los Angeles and becoming professionals. That was fun. And I think of it as Video West. But if you want to know the truth, I never worked there. I did one voiceover for one thing that hit the air. That's it. And
What was the voiceover for?
the Killer Bees. Or not. Maybe I didn't do that. Maybe someone else wrote that.
You wrote it. You didn't actually do the voice.
No. Oh God, no. I wrote the dialogue. I don't know who did that voice. Lovely talent.
We shot Coming Home, which is gone missing. It may show it someday. Do you remember that?
Yeah, that was the first sketch I ever wrote, I think. And if I recall, it was like a prisoner comes home. Now, as an adult, I understand when a big movie has come out called Coming Home, and you have an unrelated sketch that has to do with somebody coming home. You don't name it that because everyone will think it's the movie. I didn't know that yet. So many lessons. What I did do was write a sketch about a prisoner that comes home, and the joke is, has things changed? And yeah, the wife has remarried, only it's not even the wife, it's a different woman. And she says, you were black when you left and you're white now. I don't know. When you're 18, things, you're just learning your comedy muscles. You're just learning that if I change that, maybe that'll be funny. And they're all, I recognize in that premise, like that guy will grow up and write funny stuff, but that's not professional writing yet.
My favorite line from it that I remember is, I didn't kill anyone. There were just dead bodies everywhere I went.
Well, that is funny. I mean, it was funny. I did good work later, so I must have had the raw. I bet if I went through these are all the sketches that I sent, I would just be mortified. I haven't. And but I did go to LA because of Joe, because Joe literally said, I'm moving to LA. You should come. And that's why I went to LA, because of Joe Dea. And I drove down in his car and I stayed on his floor for like a month, and then got a place and got a job as a word processor. And then, like, within a year, was writing on sitcoms. It just was a charmed time to be in that business because it was exploding. I wrote like a spec, and the next thing I know, I'm writing professionally, and it kept going. So that's how hard it was.
Could you talk about the contest?
The AFI contest. Okay.
And if you remember, Dick Van Dyke was the host,
He was the host.
and we hid liquor bottles,
No,
in empty liquor bottles in his dressing room.
you did that.
I did that.
I remember. So, okay, I'll tell that story.
I don't think I really appreciated who he was yet.
Oh, yeah. Well, no. Okay. So the AFI, American Film Institute, obviously, had a contest of sorts. NBC had underwritten a program whereby they would take 10 TV writers. And that was the big initiative. The AFI Film Institute is getting it to get this television. So that was a big thing. And they weren't really, I mean, they weren't teaching courses in it. They just took money from NBC and took 10 people for a 3-week workshop. But they had all the best of everybody come in to talk to us about making television. And because that program got a lot of publicity, I got agents off of it, and everything took off from there. But one of the things that we got was NBC gave an hour of airtime to the AFI comedy special that aired at like 10 at night on a Wednesday in the middle of the summer. And they had these dinosaur TV producers produce it. I mean, so old, they are literally almost as old as I am now. And it was such a lesson in TV because it was, I mean, I liked these people. I got to know them a little better later. Sam Danoff, he created That Girl, and he was a big writer on the Dick Van Dyke Show. I mean, A+ guy, just a little bit long in the tooth by the time he gets to us. And he rewrites all of our stuff. So it's like a good lesson in TV, but this is literally the AFI comedy writer special. You're about to see the work of 4 comedy writers, and they put it on. And it's stuff like bananas is a big comedy word in mine because I had psycho, speaking of the joke that you like. And Sam said, don't say psycho, say bananas. Bananas is a funnier word. And he changed it. And now it's got my name in it. I was very upset at the time. But because he was a writer on the Dick Van Dyke Show. He gets Dick Van Dyke to host as a favor. And Joe was there in the audience being a good friend. And afterwards, I don't know if there's a party or we just go backstage because we're messing around. And Joe, there must have been a party because you had liquor bottles, and you say, "Oh, this will be funny," and he hid liquor bottles in his dressing room because believe me, he was out of there like a shot the second the thing wrapped. He wasn't going to come back, so it was just for I guess the janitors or whoever was there the next morning to see him. For it really to work, they would have to know this was Dick Van Dyke. I don't know that this joke is well thought out. You can think about it, Joe. Like the person who finds them has to know that was Dick Van Dyke's dressing room. Maybe they did.
That he was on the wagon.
And then he was on the wagon and famously an alcoholic from before that, yeah. But that was the AFI special. What I remember about it was that it's my network debut, and I've already done the dress rehearsal in the afternoon, and I did really well, except I kind of looked where they were feeding me lines to this thing where you're supposed to be pitching a show to some network executive. Um, but I sit in the makeup chair for the actual performance with, they both had audiences, but this is the nighttime audience show. And this woman she has this giant thing of hair goop, and she lifts her hand in it, and then she pulls it into my hair, and she raises my hair. Now my hair is about up to here. Before I think that, what the fuck are you doing? And she just said, "Oh, aren't you one of the extras for the '50s sketch?" And I was like, no, I'm a writer and I have to match my actually good performance. And can you take this out?" And she said, "Oh, no, we don't have that." Which now I know what you're supposed to do is throw a show business fit. And you just say, "Look, if you like this job, you better fucking find me a shower or just get in your car now." Or something. I don't know. You make it happen. You make them give you a shower because there's 20 showers backstage, and wash your hair and do it right so you can match your afternoon. But I didn't. And of course, I'm terrible in this performance at night. And they just combed it out. So the hair is like still going like my network TV debut. And I have this bizarre hairstyle that thank God now, if you ever saw it, you would go, "Well, I guess that was in style back then."
So you were acting in your sketch? I don't recall this.
No, what it was very literal premised thing of there was a very literal premise that these four writers were pitching their shows to a network executive who's this booming voice, like in a chorus line or something. And I'm gay, so there's that reference. Anyway, so then you cut to the sketch that has Jason Bateman in it. By the way, Jason Bateman rehearsed with me all week on this, and then later I worked with him on Arrested Development. I said, "Hey, how about that?" He said, "I have no idea what you're talking about." So he did a lot of TV, I suppose. Um, but anyway, so that's the idea. I'm pitching to the net, and then we go. That's my only role is I pitch it, and then we go into it. But I don't know. I like to think I would have gotten some sort of network deal with my own sitcom right when those were taking off, and we would have run for like 3 years, and then they would have found out that I'm gay, and that would have been a scandal, and I would have handled it poorly, and we would have been canceled. But none of that because they're. That's all I got, Joe. What else you want?
The rest of your career.
Oh, then I wrote a bunch of other shows, and now here we are. Not what I was like. Once you're in sitcom, it was so like once you were in the door, and this was true like any of the people at Videowest, like Susie Fitzgerald and Eric Nelson. I would say, once you were in, you just got to let one job after another because they were just making all this TV back then. We didn't have the internet. They would you barely had cable. All you had was TV. So they needed a lot of it, and they would pay you a lot of money to work on it. And I just went from one show to the next for like 20 years, and it was a lot of fun. And I made some good TV. It's Gary Shandling's show, the Larry Sanders Show, Arrested Development. Not about you, maybe, and then a lot of shit, But most people only get like one good show, so to have like four of them in there.
On the Gary Shandling show, did you tell me that you had no idea what you were doing and they hired you just to be kind so you could learn stuff?
No,
Something like that?
something like that, but not that.
Did you learn how to write there?
Oh my God, yes. Because you see, they hired me because of the AFI special because to promote. everyone wanted to do a solid to the AFI, because it's an institute. So when NBC gave the airtime, the New York Times came in to publicize it, and they did a big Sunday um, arts and leisure section piece on the four writers who had pieces on this special. And because of that, and everyone read the New York Times, the producers of It's Gary Shanley show needed a writer then. Later, I learned because one of the stars of the show had put his penis on the shoulder of a female baby writer. And Grillstein Gray had suggested the solution to that problem was that the female writer quit. And that left an opening for me. It's the skeeviest way to get into show business. And she's written essays about it in the Hollywood Reporter, and I feel terrible. I didn't never know that at the time, though. No one said, remember that writer that so and so put their penis on the shoulder. But that's how I got the job because of that. And what I probably said was first year writers are useless, and they just are. Every show. But this show especially because it was the best show on TV. No one knew that. No one watched it, but it had like all these Harvard writers like Tom Campbell and Max Pross and Al Jean and Mike Reese and Ed Solomon. All these people have gone into amazing careers, and that's not even all of them. Did I say Sam Simon yet? I think I did. Who else was in that staff? Just a murderer's row and me. So what are you going to do in that kind of company but sit there and pitch jokes and have everyone stare at you like even trying to remember were they ever that not funny?
What did you learn there? Can you explain it?
You learn by watching what they were doing correctly, which is pitching story and jokes and fixes and being agile on your feet and just knowing like we need a joke and just to start riffing and be confident you're going to come up with good stuff, which doesn't happen automatically, but once you get kind of a sense of what's a good pitch and what's a bad, and that's the best room to do it in because I mean, Sam Simon, like I mentioned, created The Simpsons. Al Jean and Mike Reese ran The Simpsons. Ed Solomon did. Look him up. I don't think he ever had a big TV success, but that's because he was creating Men in Black and Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure and all of those things. And it went on from there. Like everybody in that room was just absolutely a superstar. And I just learned from them, oh, do that and not what I was doing. And by the end of it, I came out of there and went to the next show, and suddenly it was like, oh, this is easy. Because it's not like most shows don't have that. Most shows don't have that kind of talent. They just have normal talented people like me. And it was fun. It was good. That's my whole career.
So what shows did you go on to do then after that?
Okay, let me see if I can do the list. It's like a 90s, it's like a 90s, a tour of the 90s television because I got fired a lot. But
Why did you get fired?
actually, I didn't get fired a lot. I got fired sometimes, and I'll tell you when, but mostly you got a better offer and you went there. Like, okay, so I started on It's Gary Shanley show, got fired, and go to Disney for an overall, and I work on The Nut House with Mel Brooks and Harvey Korman. Of course, I don't have to tell you that. The Nut House with Harvey Korman. Come on. And that got canceled. And then I did Down Home at Paramount, which ran 2 seasons, but got canceled. That was produced by the Cheers people, which was good because I got to learn from all the Cheers writers because they would come over. And then went back to Disney and worked on Ellen, which was the first actual big hit that I'd worked on, and that made a big difference. And so when that was done, I got to go on Roseanne. And then at Carsey Werner, where Roseanne was done, they hired me to write the new Cosby pilot, the second one on CBS. And I like to think that I was fired from that because he knew that I disapproved of his drugging women, but I had no idea. But I'm just kind of glad that I didn't ever do anything to help Bill Cosby's career because of that. He could not fucking shut up. Oh my God. He would just call you up and talk for 6 hours. And what could you do? You couldn't hang up. And I'm mostly thinking, don't you have better things to do? Is this what it comes to? Being Bill Cosby and you end up talking to Richard Day for 6 hours on a Tuesday afternoon just
About what?
nothing. He's not even doing bits. He's just making these stupid observations about boring workaday things in such a slow voice. And he keeps like Trump playing at 16 RPM, and then he thinks of something else and never comes back to the original. And he knows I can't hang up because I'm his employee. And so it's just a lot of that. But why do you want to do that to a person? And then I worked on Mad About You, and then Spin City, and then Larry Sanders Show. No, flip that. And then Arrested Development, and a few others I forget, because they come and go, and they only run a few episodes, and I don't remember all of them. One of them was called Whoops, and that was set in the post-nuclear future. And I took that job. My agent said, if you take Whoops, it will hurt your career. That's how bad this show is. And I told my agent, um, they're doing a show in the post-nuclear future. They'll never do another one. I have to be there. There's no choice. And then they later did a much better show set in the post-nuclear future. So I was wrong about that. It was an awful, awful show. But a lot of things like that, where they just, something gets on the air because they had to put a lot of things on the air and immediately canceled and forgotten forever.
What was your experience working with what's his name? You said Young Frankenstein director. Mel Brooks.
Mel Brooks.
Yeah.
I worked with him twice. He was great. I mean, I have a funny Mel Brooks story. Totally inside show business story that should be written in a book somewhere, but only a few people saw it. So Mel Brooks created the Nut House, and whatever, he was never there. The reason the Nut House existed was that they had made this movie Big Business on Disney, the Disney lot, and they had to build a Plaza Hotel and a whole soundstage. And I don't know how Disney thinks. They said, well, we have this hotel set now. Let's do a show and sell it, and set in a hotel. And they got Mel Brooks to do it. But Mel Brooks just took the check and gave it to Alan Spencer, and I think I saw him once. But then Mel Brooks was an uncle of Paul Reiser's on Mad About You, and he did several episodes, and he won the Emmy. So here's the funny show business story: is that he wins the Emmy. We all go to the Emmys because we're up for Emmys as well, and we don't, but he does. And then we all go to, I want to say Shandara. Was there one in Pasadena as well, a Thai restaurant in the 90s? This would have been 96. And Paul Reiser and Helen had to close the place down, but they're having they're filming me at a diagonal. I wonder if that's going to be what you want when you're done. You know what I mean? Like if you did like something more like that.
You should have been a director.
Well, no, it's just like you're making me into a bad villain. But okay, so Paul Reiser and Helen Hunt have rented Shandara. Let's say it's not Shandara; it's somewhere much fancier than that. And Carl Reiner shows up, and Bancroft is there too because is married to Mel Gibson Brooks. And Carl Reiser does it. Carl, start this again. You can use all of it. You can use where I stop and I say, can I start again? But
Yeah.
I'm getting these names wrong. So here's the story. Paul Reiser and Helen Hunt rent a Thai restaurant in Pasadena to have the post-Emmy party because they think they're going to win. The show's going to win. Maybe Mel Brooks will win. Well, only Mel Brooks wins, of course. Best guest performer on a sitcom. But okay. So anyway, Carl Reiner is there as his best friend and gives a toast. And the toast goes something like this. He says, congratulations to my best friend on winning his first Emmy. And I know how special they are because there had just been the earthquake a couple of years earlier at that point. And he says, when that happened, I lost all 12 of my Emmys. So I'm glad that you have one now. So he just couldn't wait to mention his 12 Emmys to Mel's one in his toast. That's a really good story, but I think you need somebody good at telling stories to get the full impact of it across. I don't know what else though.
Larry Sanders Show.
The Larry Sanders Show. Yeah. I don't have any good stories.
Didn't you tell me that he said, I'm hiring you so that I can fire you again?
Richard, I look forward to firing you a second time. That's what he said in the call saying I was hired. Yeah. Gary, you don't speak ill of the dead, right?
Sure. Why not?
No, I think you're not. Believe me, if that weren't a rule, I could go to town about Gary Shanley, but you can't speak ill of the dead. So God rest his soul.
What are we missing?
I don't think you've asked me anything about Video West. Isn't that what this whole thing is about?
Yeah, I wanted your, what did you get out? What did Video West do for you?
It Video West was full of very creative people that were in it for the right reasons and doing really good work. And none of them seemed to know. It's not that they didn't know what they were doing. It's just they didn't know how, like, they weren't doing it cynically. Like most TV, you kind of learned is made very cynically. And Video West was just artists, just making things that appealed to them. It probably speaks very poorly of them that what appeals to them is just making TV, but still, you can't have everything. They're making it for the right reasons, and that was just a lot. That was infectious to be around people like I don't know Joe Dea. I don't know what he would have been doing, but he didn't have to just make videos for free in San Francisco for 3 years straight. He didn't need to do that, but he was doing it just because he liked the people and he was good at it and wanted to get work out there, right? I mean, you were the only comedy director there, I'm pretty sure, right? Yeah. So to work with Joe and to sort of learn all the best things about how to approach art, which is not as a way to
Just
get,
got a message from your mother. She says, "How are things going? Should I respond?" Is she asking about this interview?
she's probably asking if I'm going to be home for dinner. Um, she's probably not wondering about the interview, but I'll respond to her in my way.
We're on Richard's phone videoing this.
Are you responding?
No,
Okay.
I'm just explaining to the audience.
Oh yeah. Um, I just like that's what I liked about Video West was all of these people seemed not quite sure of uh, what the TV business was, but they knew they liked making TV and they were trying to make a business of it after the fact, if that sounds right. They sure didn't do a good job of it. I mean, the place went under, right?
What was your impression of Video West as a high school student watching it?
I liked it because it did not. I still to this day love things like John Waters movies and Video West, anything where you can see the seams, where you almost, I said this on a podcast once, like John Waters movies, I love them because you could imagine that if you could just pull back, 10 feet, the camera pulls back 10 feet, you would see the coolest place in the world to be. You'd see like John Waters and like whoever is standing to one side, but probably only like 10 people because it's not a huge production. And and the movies have that charm that like you get to be on the set of that movie because you're watching it. And I kind of felt that about Video West, that the charm of it was like you'd watch the comedy sketches or the interviews, and there was that sense that these kids just brought a camera to that concert and they're trying to find the people they're supposed to be interviewing and asking the question that comes to the top of their head. And wouldn't that be fun? And because it's kind of done very the rough edges are showing on it, you can watch the video and believe you are there. That's what they're really putting on TV, is not the interview with Bill Graham, but the experience of interviewing Bill Graham or the experience of making a comedy sketch, more than the sketch itself, because nobody had phone cameras then. Nobody had any ability to do these things themselves. So you got the sense that if you did have that, this is how it would be. You know what I mean? That's when I'm watching at home. I kind of felt like this is me on the set of Video West, and that number to call at the end of it was so interesting. No show would do that. They're supposed to like have a polish to them, a remove. It's supposed to be untouchable. That world on the other side of the screen. And then I realized how easy it was to get there. It was almost too easy. I was like, well, these losers will take some high school kid in. Maybe I shouldn't bother. But no, it was a lot. Well, the best thing was it was just hanging out. Like I don't know what they thought I was doing. It's not like they needed my material. They didn't make any of it. I just started hanging out all the time, and no one told me to stop, or maybe they even asked me to. I don't
You were
remember.
hanging out in the office?
Yeah,
What were you doing?
nothing. One time I auditioned to be a VJ, but that's because everyone was, and Steve Nat got it. So as you can see, it wasn't an exhaustive search. They didn't even get people outside the building apparently to audition. Um, but I remember that's when I met Juanita and Susie Fitzgerald and Michael Branton and Eric Nelson and somewhat Fabrice, but he was too important. And Jay at the front desk. And I'm going to forget people, but
They're going to be pissed.
Yeah, like that wonderful couple whose name like Lee Callister and his lovely wife.
Agnes.
I believe it's Mrs. Lee Callister, but sure, Agnes. And I don't remember who else, but they were all just, I mean, they seemed impossibly old to me, but I think they were 23, everybody probably then. And I loved the place. I was sorry to see it. I'm sorry I got there when I did.
Did you get to see it into a lot of concerts for free from hanging out there?
Oh, endlessly, but not just it. Yeah, the Kabuki, right? Because of Bill Graham. But the thing about that that was so amazing was that it wasn't just any concert venue happened to let us in. It was the Kabuki Theater where all of the iconic new wave bands went to play. So I think all of us, I mean, I think I went to every show practically, but you just every week you'd see Echo and the Bunnymen or Susie and the Banshees or I'm gonna get all the. It doesn't matter. All of them, like every record you owned, Adam and the Ants. It was always blank and the blanks apparently, but you would see them in concert, and they didn't. These bands weren't all around very long, and I don't know how many American tours most of them did. One, sometimes two, and we got to see all of them. It's just because it was that year, that set of maybe 2 years, where those bands that are still played today were in town performing live, and you didn't even appreciate it. It was like you'd walk in on Echo and the Bunnymen, or let's pick someone better, like Wendy Williams, I think was there, and like, is she the one that took a hammer to herself? Is that something really? Who did that?
I think Wendy Williams got decapitated in a car accident.
No, that was Jane Mansfield's husband, or maybe it was Jane Mansfield. Well, maybe a lot of people do. The point being, though, you just walk in on these people that you don't understand the privilege that you have to like see them live. Like no one will ever get to see them live again, and just stay for 2 songs, and then be like, let's see if there's any food backstage, and then go. So I kind of love that about it.
What of your experience at Videowest stuck with you for life?
Joe, I mean, he's here in the room with me. I literally cannot shake Joe Dea. He is stuck with me for life. Yeah, everyone. I'm in Juanita's house, and it's possible that and I just was at a dinner with Fabrice Florin, and it's like, yeah, that's not normal. Think about all the workplaces that you've had in the course of your life and how many of those people you're still in contact with. And it's not many workplaces, certainly not ones from the mid 80s, early 80s, that everyone still knows each other. But that's what Video West is. All of those people still talk to each other regularly. Like, whose number don't you have?
I'm off camera. I can't answer.
Oh, anyway, he has all of their numbers, just to answer, you would say if you were on camera. Except Michael Brant's. He's not sure what happened there.
All right, I'm going to cut.
Okay.